There is a place on this earth that is larger than the entire United States of America, a place where the compass stops working, where the military conducted secret nuclear tests, where 54 governments signed a treaty and decided together that nobody gets in without permission, a place that, to this day, has millions of square kilometers that no human foot has ever touched. And here's the question nobody is asking. Why? Why does a frozen, empty continent need an international treaty to protect it? What exactly are they protecting? And more importantly, what are they protecting it from? In this video, guys, we're going to go deep into the most shocking conspiracy theories surrounding Antarctica, the forbidden continent. We will talk about secret military operations, alien bases, lost civilizations buried under 2 miles of ice, and the geographical truth that makes it physically impossible for any human being to fully circle this continent. And then we're going to tear every single theory apart, with facts, with names, with real explorers who actually went there and came back. So buckle up, because this one goes deep. Let's go. And before we dive in, if this kind of content blows your mind, hit that subscribe button right now, because we are just getting started. Part 1. The conspiracy theories, theory number 1. The treaty that locked a continent. Let's start with something that is not a theory. It is a documented historical fact. On December 1st, 1959, 12 nations sat down in Washington, D.C. and signed a document called the Antarctic Treaty. Today, 54 countries have signed it. The treaty states that Antarctica is to be used for peaceful purposes only. No military operations, no weapons testing, no resource extraction, and most importantly, all activities must be supervised and approved. Now, on the surface, that sounds reasonable. Environmental protection, scientific cooperation, very noble. But think about it for a second. There's no treaty governing the Amazon rainforest. There's no international agreement locking down the Sahara Desert. There's no committee deciding who gets to visit Siberia. So why Antarctica? Why does the most remote, inhospitable, and supposedly empty piece of land on the planet need the most heavily regulated international legal framework in human history? Conspiracy theorists have one answer: because it is not empty. And that answer leads us directly to theory number 2. Theory number 2, Operation Highjump, and the Admiral who saw too much the year is 1947. World War II has just ended. The United States military launches one of the largest naval operations in its history. Not in the Pacific, not in Europe, in Antarctica. Operation Highjump, led by Rear Admiral Richard Byrd. Over 4,700 military personnel, 13 ships, 33 aircraft. Officially described as a scientific expedition to establish an American research base. It was scheduled to last 6 to 8 months. It ended after 8 weeks. Admiral Byrd returned to the United States and gave a press interview that has been quoted and misquoted ever since. He warned, in his words, of the necessity of defending against enemy aircraft that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. In 1947, before any known nation had that technology, conspiracy theorists ask, what did Byrd see down there? What ended a massive military operation 2 months early? And what flew over his fleet in the skies above Antarctica? The official answer from the U.S. Navy has always been weather conditions and logistical difficulties. But the question never really went away. Theory number 3, Piri Reis, and the map that should not exist in 1513. An Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis drew a map of the world. The map was largely forgotten until 1929, when historians rediscovered it in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. And what they found inside that map sent shockwaves through the academic world. Piri Reis had drawn the coastline of Antarctica in 1513, 300 years before Antarctica was officially discovered. Not only that, his map appeared to show the coastline of Antarctica without ice, showing geographical features that we only confirmed using modern sonar equipment in the 20th century. How? How did an Ottoman admiral in the 16th century draw an accurate ice-free map of a continent that, according to official history, no human being had ever seen? The mainstream explanation is that it was a coincidence, a misinterpretation of South American geography stretched southward. But others say the map proves one thing: someone was there before us, long before us, and the ice came after. Which brings us to theory number 4. Theory number 4. The lost civilization under the ice 2 miles. That is how thick the ice covering Antarctica is in some places. 2 miles of ice sitting on top of an actual landmass. A continent with mountains, valleys, lakes, and rivers, all completely buried and invisible to the naked eye. And here is the scientific fact that fuels this theory. Antarctica was not always frozen. Geological evidence confirms that millions of years ago, Antarctica had a tropical climate, forest, rivers, warmth. So the conspiracy theory goes like this. What if a civilization existed there? What if, when the ice came, some of it survived underground? What if the hollow sections beneath the Antarctic ice shelf, which do exist and have been documented by NASA, are not geological formations, but something else entirely? Some theorists go further and connect this to the hollow Earth theory. The idea that inside our planet exists a habitable world, and that Antarctica is one of the entry points. There are even claims of a secret Nazi expedition in 1938, Operation Neuschwabenland, where Germany reportedly claimed a section of Antarctica and, according to the most extreme versions, established an underground base there that survived the war. Is any of this true? We will get to that. Theory number 5, nuclear tests above the South Pole. This one is not entirely a theory. Between 1958 and 1962, the United States conducted a series of high-altitude nuclear detonations above the Southern Ocean and near Antarctic airspace as part of a program called Operation Fishbowl. The stated purpose was to study the effects of nuclear explosions in the upper atmosphere. But conspiracy theorists point to something else entirely. They claim the real purpose of these detonations was to test the boundaries of what they call the firmament, a physical dome or barrier surrounding the Earth. The theory being that the explosions were attempts to blast through or map this invisible ceiling. This connects directly to flat Earth ideology, which places Antarctica not as a continent at the bottom of a sphere, but as a massive ice wall surrounding the entire flat disk of Earth, the ultimate boundary that governments are desperately hiding. We will debunk this thoroughly, but first, one more theory. Theory number 6. The alien bases beneath the ice in 2006. A Google Earth user noticed something unusual in satellite imagery of Antarctica, a perfectly geometric entrance carved into the side of a mountain, perfectly rectangular, too precise to be natural erosion. The image spread across the internet immediately. Thousands of articles, millions of views, and then there are the stories of strange lights reported by researchers stationed at Antarctic bases. Disc-shaped objects emerging from the ice. Unexplained electromagnetic anomalies that interfere with equipment. Some go even further and claim that the real reason for the Antarctic Treaty is not scientific cooperation. It is a coordinated global agreement to keep humans away from an active extraterrestrial presence beneath the ice, a presence that has been there for thousands of years, and whose discovery would collapse every government, every religion, and every economic system on the planet overnight. That is the most extreme version of the theory. And here is where we stop, because now it is time to talk about what is actually true. Part 2, the geographical truth before we debunk the theories. Let us talk about something real, something that conspiracy theorists and mainstream science actually agree on. And that is more fascinating than any theory. Antarctica is genuinely inaccessible in ways that most people do not understand. The compass problem at the South Pole, conventional magnetic compasses become completely useless. The magnetic South Pole and the geographic South Pole are not in the same location. And the closer you get to the geographic pole, the more your compass spins randomly, pointing at nothing meaningful. This is not a conspiracy. This is physics. Any aircraft or ship attempting to navigate by magnetic compass in deep Antarctic territory will literally lose its sense of direction. Modern navigation uses GPS satellites and gyroscopic systems. But even those face interference challenges in polar regions due to satellite orbital geometry. The size problem in Antarctica is 14 million square kilometers. To put that in perspective, that is larger than Europe, larger than Australia, roughly the size of the United States and Mexico combined. The coastline alone is over 17,000 kilometers long. To fully circumnavigate this continent by ship would require a journey longer than crossing the Atlantic Ocean 4 times. And here is the critical detail that most people miss. Nobody has ever done it. Not in one continuous journey, not along the actual coastline, not with documentation of every kilometer. This is not because of a conspiracy. It is because the logistics are physically impossible with current technology. There are no ports, no fuel stations, no emergency harbors, no repair facilities, nothing. If your ship breaks down anywhere along that 17,000-kilometer journey, you are dead. There's no rescue that can reach you in time. This means that millions of square kilometers of Antarctic coastline have never been observed up close by any human being, ever. That is not a conspiracy. That is just geography. The climate problem Antarctica holds the record for the coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth, minus 89.2 degrees Celsius, recorded at the Soviet Vostok station in 1983. In those conditions, exposed skin freezes in under 2 minutes. Metal becomes brittle. Engines fail. Electronics malfunction. The interior of the continent is accessible only during a window of roughly 4 months per year, the Antarctic summer. And even then, conditions can turn lethal within hours. This is why the vast majority of human activity in Antarctica is limited to a thin ring of coastal research stations. The interior, millions of square kilometers of it, remains almost entirely unexplored, not because anyone is hiding it, but because getting there and surviving is genuinely one of the hardest things a human being can attempt. Part 3, the truth. The real explorers. Now let us talk about the people who actually went. Ibn Battuta, the Jordanian who went to the edge of the world. You may know Ibn Battuta from YouTube, the Jordanian explorer and content creator who has made it his mission to go where almost no one goes. His documentation of the journey toward Antarctic territory, the logistics, the cold, the isolation, the sheer scale of the environment, is one of the most honest, first-hand accounts available to an Arabic-speaking audience. And what his journey shows is simple. You can go. It is not forbidden, but it is brutally, unforgivingly hard. The Antarctic Treaty does not ban tourism. It does not ban private expeditions. It regulates them, requiring permits, environmental compliance, and emergency protocols. The real barrier is not a government conspiracy. It is the planet itself. Roald Amundsen, the man who won the race to the pole on December 14, 1911, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen and his team became the first human beings in history to reach the geographic South Pole. He planted a flag. He took measurements. He left a tent. And then he walked back. The round trip was over 3,000 kilometers on foot in Antarctica in winter conditions. Amundsen succeeded because he was methodical, disciplined, and brutally realistic about what the continent demanded. Robert Falcon Scott, the man who arrived second and never came back 34 days after Amundsen. British explorer Robert Falcon Scott reached the South Pole. He found Amundsen's tent and flag already there. He began the return journey. He never made it. Scott and his 4 companions died on the ice, just 18 kilometers from a supply depot that could have saved their lives. His final diary entry read, "I do not think we can hope for any better things now. We shall stick it out to the end, but we are getting weaker, of course, and the end cannot be far." No government conspiracy killed Robert Falcon Scott. Antarctica did. Ernest Shackleton, the greatest survival story in human history in 1914. Ernest Shackleton led an expedition that went catastrophically wrong. His ship, the Endurance, became trapped in Antarctic sea ice and was slowly crushed over the course of 10 months. His crew of 27 men were stranded on the ice with no communication and no rescue coming. What followed is considered the greatest survival story in the history of exploration. Shackleton navigated an open lifeboat across 1,300 kilometers of the most violent ocean on Earth, reached a remote island, crossed mountains with no equipment, and eventually rescued every single one of his 27 men. Not one life lost, not because of government protection or alien intervention, because of human will against a continent that wants to kill you. The debunking fact by fact the Piri Reis map, thoroughly analyzed by cartographers who showed the Antarctic-looking coastline, is a distorted representation of South American geography, consistent with mapping errors common in the 16th century. There is no confirmed ice-free Antarctic coastline on the map. Operation Highjump ended early due to severe weather conditions and supply difficulties, both documented in the official naval records that have since been declassified. Admiral Byrd's quote about enemy aircraft was taken from a Chilean newspaper interview that was poorly translated and then widely misrepresented. The Nazi base. Operation Neuschwabenland was real. The underground base was not. Post-war Allied expeditions found no evidence of any installation. The story was kept alive by Cold War propaganda and later by internet mythology. The geometric cave entrance, identified by geologists as a natural rock formation called a nunatak, a mountain peak protruding through ice. The geometric appearance is a result of the specific way granite fractures under extreme freeze-thaw stress over millions of years. The hollow Earth entry point. There is no hollow Earth. We have seismic data from every major earthquake for the past century that maps the interior of the planet in extraordinary detail. It is rock and iron all the way down, the flat Earth ice wall. The curvature of the Earth has been directly observed from orbit by astronauts from over 40 different nations, including nations that are geopolitical enemies. The idea that all of them maintained a coordinated lie is statistically and logistically impossible. So what is Antarctica really? It is the most extreme environment on the surface of our planet. It is a continent that kills without warning, without mercy, and without exception. It is a place where the rules of ordinary navigation break down, where the weather can change from survivable to lethal in under an hour, where millions of square kilometers of ice and rock have simply never been mapped because no one has been able to reach them and live. It does not need a conspiracy to be mysterious. It is mysterious because it is genuinely, almost incomprehensibly hostile to human life. The real story of Antarctica is not about what governments are hiding. It is about what nature is hiding, and nature does not negotiate. If this video changed the way you see the world, or at least the bottom of it, then you know what to do. Subscribe. Share this with someone who thinks they know everything about our planet. Because the truth is, we have explored less of Antarctica than we have explored the surface of Mars. Let that sink in. And before you go, one question to take with you. If tomorrow all international treaties on Antarctica were dissolved and every government opened it completely to the public, how many of us would actually be brave enough to go? Or would the continent itself, not the governments, still keep us away?